George Washington was born on February 22, 1732 in Pope's Creek, Virginia. Early in his life his family moved to Mount Vernon, where he would spend the rest of his childhood. He had a total of 9 siblings. Mount Vernon was a plantation estate, and as such, included a number of slaves. While George Washington did own slaves, he avoided addressing the issue in public. At age 11, he inherited slaves from the passing of his father. Throughout his life, his view towards slavery seems to have changed. Early on, George Washington kept up with the practice, but as he grew older he began to question the use of slavery. Although he never acted upon those questions, he did put in his will to free his slaves upon his death. Of all the slaves Martha inherited from George when he died, she only ever freed one. When George was 19, he went on a trip to Barbados with one of his half-brothers. It was in Barbados that he contracted smallpox. This is also the only time George left North America. It is likely that George contracting smallpox saved him during the American Revolution, when there was a deadly outbreak of the virus. Not only did George Washington fight in the French and Indian War, but he was instrumental in causing the war to begin with. While on a mission in Ohio, he led a surprise attack on a French force in the Battle of Fort Necessity. This attack would spark the war between the British and the French in North America. Lessons he learned during this war would help lead him to victory in the American Revolution. April 19, 1775 was the start of the American Revolutionary War, which George Washington served as the commander-in-chief for the Continental Army. Even though he ended up winning the war, Washington actually lost more battles than he won. During the war, George Washington had an extensive spy network throughout the colonies. Most famous of his spies was the double-crossing agent, Benedict Arnold. During the slow periods of the war, particularly during the winter, his wife Martha would make the journey to visit him. The war ended on September 3, 1783, after 8 long years. While the new states worked towards establishing a more permanent union, George Washington presided over the proceedings of the Constitutional Convention. It was at this convention that the Founding Fathers drafted the Constitution of the United States. On April 30, 1789, he was elected President of the United States, with John Adams as his Vice President. He served 2 terms, being elected unanimously both times. Even though he would have been elected for a 3rd term, he chose to step down, thus setting the standard for 2-term presidents. George Washington's first job was as a surveyor, where he would explore the land assisting in map-making. He did not have wooden teeth, but had dentures made of ivory, gold, and other human teeth. Besides attending elementary school, Washington did not have a formal education. He was the only founding father that did not attend college. George Washington died on December 14, 1799 at the age of 67, from a bacterial throat infection.